What's up, Anchor Peeps? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my beautiful wife, SHARI T. Just a little bit bigger than the Anchor Pete audience is the audience for the show Search Party.
It deserves a big audience. I don't know if it has one, but
yeah,
we're fans.
We are huge fans of the show, and we have been watching it on HBO MAX. So if you are a fan of the series or you don't know anything about it, we're going to be talking about Search Party Season 4 today. We're going to start off giving you a little bit background on the show, and then we're going to go into spoilers for Season 4. So the show has three creators, Sarah-Violet Bliss, Charles Rogers, and Michael Showalter, right? So Michael Showalter, you might actually recognize him. Have you seen Wet Hot American Summer?
I've seen the movie, but not the show.
Yeah, well, it's the same people behind both, right? He's the main character in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
The one that...
Cooper.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
I never knew who that was. Because you know how the cast has a lot of, kind of little famous people?
Yeah.
That one character, I never know who that is.
Yeah, and you want to hear something else? He also directed The Big Sick. The reason why Search Party is so great is because it has 4 really awesome characters. And each of the actors that play the characters do a fantastic job. The main character you'll recognize from posters is Alia Shawkat, and she plays Dory Sief, right?
Yeah, and she's also maybe on Arrested Development.
That's right.
Well, the show starts, she's the main character of the show, and it centers around her and her 3 friends. But she starts the show kind of as a 20-something who has recently graduated college and is kind of looking for what to do with her life, which I think is a way a lot of us felt in our 20s, or if you're in your 20s, I don't know if you're feeling that way, but the search for what to do with your life is kind of a common thing in your 20s. Anyway, that's her, and she sees a poster of a missing girl who was a former classmate, and she decides to rope her friends into going to search for this missing girl. And that is the premise of the original first season. Yes.
And as you'll see as we keep talking, the show switches gears a lot. It's a different show pretty much for each of the 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard show to talk about because there's so much that goes on.
The next one I think is probably the funniest character on the show, and that is Elliot Goss, right?
Okay.
And he's played by John Early.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. He's like this narcissistic gay man who pretty much just lies about everything. He is a pathological liar.
Very flamboyant.
Yeah, and as the show goes on, spoilers, we see that most of his life is just a lie. He's been lying the entire time.
He's hilarious, though, and he's mean, too.
Yeah.
And that's part of the humor.
Next, we have John Reynolds, who plays Drew Gardner. And according to the description on Wikipedia, he's a sweet, spoon-fed doofus.
Aww.
Yeah.
Oh, I love him. I mean, I wouldn't... He does come across that way at first. In fact, I didn't think he was going to last long on the show. I thought Dory was going to break up with him and get back with her ex. But he's really grown on me, and I love him now. Yeah.
He's kind of unlikable in the first few episodes of the show, but as it goes along, you end up liking him. He's like one of my favorite characters.
I know. He's definitely kind of a pushover, but
that's okay.
That's part of his charm.
Yeah. So much of this show is the subtle reactions that people have. And for him, his facial reactions are so funny.
He's great.
The way that he just responds to things. Oh, God, I love it. And then last but not least, we have Portia Davenport, who's played by Meredith Hagner.
Who, I have a little trivia.
Go ahead. I think I know it. Go ahead.
She is married to Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's child, their son. His name is Wyatt Russell. And he's also an actor in film and TV shows. You may have seen him in... There's that Black Mirror episode, and he was on that TV show that was kind of psychedelic.
Yes.
What's that one called?
The Psychedelic Lodge of the Mind.
Yeah, something about a lodge. So she is married into the Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell family dynasty, and the weird thing is she reminds me of
Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson,
I actually just about to say
she's a little bit of a Goldie Hawn too, with her big blue eyes. I mean, so I think it's kind of an interesting choice on their son's part.
Guy's got a type. He's also going to play a U.S. agent in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. So I'm probably going to review that on this channel. Yes.
Did you know they were married?
I had no idea. I knew that she was on As the World Turns. Did you know that?
I had heard she was a soap star.
That was when she started her career.
Anyway, she's fantastic on this show.
Yes. And so it's about this group of friends, right? And the reason why it's called a search party is because they're looking for this missing girl that they knew from college, right? Well... every season the show kind of resets the first season was kind of inspired by like Nancy Drew, right? And they're looking for this girl Chantal. Then in the second season, here's some spoilers for season 2. They end up accidentally killing a man at the very end of season 1. And then the second season is like, what do we do? How do we solve this problem? And they were saying that season, they wanted to go for like an Alfred Hitchcock theme. Like they wanted to have like Hitchcock paranoia.
Okay. They are very paranoid that season.
Yeah. Then for the third season, they had a trial basically. And I thought this was when the show was actually at its funniest. It was
awesome last season.
Yeah.
Season 3 is really great.
Yeah. Louis Anderson plays one of the lawyers on the show. And
yeah, but let's not forget about the main lawyer. I don't know the actress's name, but she was so funny.
Yeah. Dory has gone through all these different character arcs throughout the show. You know, in the first season, she doesn't really know what's going on with her life. She's not really happy with her boyfriend, Drew, and she wants to find some purpose. And then and
I also want to say the title that you mentioned, Search Party, of the show is about them being a group of people going out to search for a missing person, but it's also, and the creators have said this, that it's about the search for your identity.
Yes.
So it's a double meaning.
Yeah. And in the second season, it's all about, you know, the fear of getting caught for accidentally murdering someone and trying to cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third season, in this courtroom drama, we see that Dory is pretty manipulative, right? And so by the fourth season, which we're going to talk about right now, Dory, spoilers, has been kidnapped. So if you've never watched Search Party, I highly recommend it. I think you should go onto HBO MAX and watch seasons 1 through 3 and get caught up with us. And if you have, let's talk about season 4.
Yeah, we're going to discuss episodes 1 through 5 on this episode, and then we're going to do episodes 6 through 10 sometime next week.
In the end of season 3, there was this crazy guy who was obsessed with Dory, right?
Kind of all through season 3, because they keep showing him without showing his face, like getting tattoos of Dory on his fingers and making that creepy, awesome doll.
He made this amazing Dory doll.
Anyway, he's stalking the group because he's obsessed with Dory after he saw her on TV in the courtroom, which apparently, like, it made her famous. But he got really obsessed with her, and he's decided that her friends are bad for her.
Once season 4 starts, it's immediately into this scenario where she's kidnapped, right? SHARI shared an article with me that was saying that season 4 is like a straight up adaptation of Misery. And I think that article is kind of true.
Yeah. I mean, we just reviewed Misery recently.
Check that out.
And yeah, it's all about a captor and their captive person that they're obsessed with. So Chip is really obsessed with Dory. He wants them to be best friends. He wants to take over the role that her friends have in her life, and he's going to do it by forcing it, apparently.
Yeah.
He's locked her in the basement of his a grand kind of old house that we're not sure exactly yet. It's something to do with his aunt, right? It's his aunt's house. Anyway, I think there's more to come on that. He locks her in the basement, but he's recreated her apartment down in the basement, and it's amazing. It's like her apartment, but everything's made out of like felt and foam.
Right.
And it's really frustrating for her because it's like a nightmare. It's just it's a friggin' nightmare, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing sharp. Absolutely no way she can help herself.
Yeah. She can't hurt him. She can't kill herself. And it's just amazing, like all the details of the apartment. And like it looks just like the apartment that we've seen for the first 3 seasons.
Only it's all like pillows.
Yeah. And they introduce this character, and he's super intriguing. It's not that he's like interesting, like you want to get to know him more, but just everything he says is so ridiculous. So the actor that plays Chip, his name is Cole Escolar, and
I read he's a comedian.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like super funny, and like he's creepy
mm-hmm.
and funny, and like you are so on board that he is just ridiculously obsessed with her. And to the point where he's in denial about like how she could be a bad person. He's just like infatuated with her.
Yeah.
The things that he does, it's like so over the top. Like he, besides making this like little dungeon for her, he also makes dolls of her and then her friends.
There's a really great scene where he presents her with her friends' doll versions, and she loves them. She's been locked up for months, and she hugs them, and it's a really sad sweet moment. I think I almost got a little teary-eyed because, again, they were like these fantastic dolls, and she's so happy to see them because she hasn't seen anyone except Chip for 3 months, and he's so mean about it. It's an example of the kind of torture he puts her through.
Yeah, and he
emotional and psychological.
He always like feeds her food through a little dog door, you know, and so in a way he kind of treats her kind of subhuman, and he does torture her in a way, but he also like loves her and is obsessed with her. It's this great dynamic.
He says he loves her.
Yeah.
And I mean, he gives her the same chicken nugget meal every day until she gets diarrhea.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yeah. And and he also gives her an apple every day. And that's the way that we know that time has passed so much, because she takes off a sticker from the apple and puts it on the door.
Yeah, I like that detail.
And then it's just like tons of stickers on the door.
Yeah, when you get a glimpse of the door with all the stickers, it's kind of frightening.
Yeah.
This season is a little frightening. Maybe because they are kind of like going in the vein of Misery. The show gets a little scary. It's always been sort of dark.
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of other dark moments in the other seasons, but this season's darker than ever.
At the end of the second season, Dory does kill another person. She pushes this girl, Allison, right?
April. The neighbor, April. Very annoying neighbor who you're kind of glad to see go, but you can't believe Dory stooped to this point, because Dory's kind of been like this nice person for the most part. And you start seeing the side of her, and then she kills April, and you're like, what is Dory doing? I can't believe it. You can't believe your main character is turning into a murderer.
Yeah, and she pushes her right off the Staten Island ferry.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's straight up murder, whereas the death of Keith is an accident.
Yeah. And, you know, this will probably go down as one of those major performances that people are always going to remember. Alia Shawkat. Like, they'll probably put it in the same kind of category as Bryan Cranston with Breaking Bad. You know, maybe not on that level, but the emotional range that she shows, and how when you see her in the beginning of the show, you empathize with her, you are rooting for her. But then by the third season, she does seem like the villain. And now with this fourth season, it is kind of like a redemption for her. And just the torture that she goes through and the reactions that she has, it was kind of like our discussion of Misery. I think that's kind of what you wanted from James Caan.
Yes, she's much more. She's way more emotive than James Caan. When she's first locked up, she's trying to think of all these ways to get out of the situation. You know, she goes from attacking him to finding little tricks to getting out of the room, to befriend, like pretending like she's his friend. She tries all these things, but I think by like episode 4 or 5, she's kind of given up. Like, she escapes, and when he unfortunately gets her back. She's sort of given up. Her spirit's broken, and she's just starting to I think she's starting to lose it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just been so long that all she gets to talk to is this guy, and she's losing her sense of identity, which again is what the show's always been about. Yeah,
and like SHARI said, she's showing this great emotion, but it's also this like crazy like physical performance, right? Because Alia Shawkat, she's got, you know, nice, beautiful curly hair to begin with, and it's all shaved off for this entire season.
Yeah.
She's kind of beaten up a few times in this season, so she has bruises all over her face.
He hits her in the head with a baseball bat.
Right, and she's in a car accident when she tries to escape, too.
Right.
So, she's like crying all the time, and he kind of dresses her up in weird outfits too. So she's
a lot of white cotton nightgowns.
Yeah.
I don't know why he does that. I wonder why he doesn't give her clothes. Because of all the things he's replicated in her life and down there, I wonder why he doesn't give her outfits. Because she's always had great fashion sense, in my opinion.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
It looks like she's wearing Aunt Lila's clothes.
Right. The aunt that they're staying with.
That's another funny thing. He dresses up like his aunt. It's funny yet disturbing. A little nod to Psycho, maybe, right? That he's dressing up like this woman and pretending to be her.
Yeah. This has everything. This does have Psycho, like you said. It has Psycho. It has, of course, Misery. It has kind of like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, I think, a little bit, too.
With some of the psychological torture, yes.
Yeah. It's, I mean, maybe even like in the last episode that we watched, maybe it even has like a little bit of Get Out in it. Like
the last episode, the 5th episode, which is the one, we just watched it last night, he's tried a new tactic on her. He hit her in the head with a baseball bat, and he's decided he's going to, instead of just talking to her about being friends, he's going to try to actually reprogram her, kind of through hypnosis, and also pumping her full of drugs. He put an IV in her arm. He's going to try to like reprogram her into thinking I guess what he wants. I'm sure his agenda is to make them good friends. But also, Dory had just screamed at him that she's a terrible person. Nobody should want to be her friend. Just her losing it with him because she's sick of him always saying this. And he doesn't like that. He's like, you are a good person. Yes, you are. And he's going to these extreme lengths where he's going to make her believe she's a good person and make her forget that she committed a couple of murders. And he's going to convince her friends did it and let her take the blame. It's another way he's going to try to like keep her from wanting to be with her friends again. And it looks like it's starting to work.
Yeah. And in that sequence that Sherry's talking about, there's like some super interesting visual stuff. He made this gigantic diorama that recreates the murder scene, and he made a doll for the guy Keith that gets murdered. Mm-hmm. And he's like replaying the scene with her with the dolls, and it cuts between like them using dolls to like the actual actors in a stage.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And he even goes so far to make a doll of, what was her name? April?
Yeah.
He goes so far as to make a doll of April. And this one thing that I've never seen before was so interesting.
That was so good.
Yeah. So he's using the doll of April to kind of convince Dory that she didn't do anything to her, right? And he's holding the doll, and so you're seeing the actress that plays April, and she's talking all positive and stuff, and then her head just falls off, and it's like a doll's neck underneath, right? Oh man, that I kind of jumped when I saw that. That was great.
Right, the show is going in places it hasn't gone before, but that's what the show has done from the start. It's always been a surprise, like a pleasant, creepy, kind of awful, funny surprise. And we haven't talked really about how funny the show is, because from what we're saying, you think this is like, you know, like this tragic thriller type thing, but it's really funny.
Yeah. That's actually what I wanted to talk about next, was just how like ridiculously funny. I said this before, which is that like it's so much of the subtle stuff that makes you laugh. It's like the little things people say under their breath.
Yes.
It's so funny. And like the characters, there's like random like ridiculous side characters that just show up and just say random things. Like Louis Anderson said so many silly things during the third season.
Can you think of anyone this season?
I mean, I can think. I don't want to like describe stuff because it's not going to be funny like me describing it. But I'll try.
Let me.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you try. Go ahead.
What's your favorite funny moment from season 4 thus far? I have one.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me one of them.
Drew is working at this point.
Oh no.
At like some sort of Disneyland knockoff. And I think he's playing like a beast of some type. Again, a knockoff beast from Beauty and the Beast. And he's got this like girlfriend who's some sort of princess. She's always wearing this fluffy dress, and that's also played for comedy because they try to have some serious conversations while she's wearing a dress. And she has found out, she's Googled him, and she's found out that he was accused of murder, that he was part of the famous murder trial, and she decides to confess her own secret, her own dark secret.
Yeah.
And it's this like hilarious story about how she babysat a baby and took the baby on roller skates, and like I really can't do justice. You should look up her little anecdote.
Yeah.
And Drew's face is so good.
Yeah.
His expression and his reaction, which
yeah, she was saying how she wanted to like get a soda or something or get some ice cream.
Well, they described the baby as a hockey puck, which like is so terrible yet hilarious. So
yeah.
that was really good. There's also a scene where she says "I love you," and his reply is,
"Oh yeah," and he's like, you know,
I love you.
He's stammering and he's like, I love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's just off the top of my head. Some of my favorite funny stuff.
There's this. I mean, I'm gonna butcher this one part, but there's this part when they go to interrogate like a twink guy that they find who they think might be the actual twink guy that kidnapped Dory, and he's complaining about his life, and he's like, it's because I'm so unattractive. And like he like looks up at them to kind of see if like they're taking the bait for him to like, you know, does he give him a compliment? And then Elliot's just like, no, we're not telling you you're attractive, that you're fishing.
Yeah. Elliot has this like quick, mean. He's like a mean girl.
And it's so funny because he's on this like right wing Fox News type show at one point, and he's with this girl from Saturday Night Live who's playing this like right wing blonde nut job. Mm-hmm. And they have this dynamic where she's like a conservative and he's a liberal, and he's like, you know, butting heads with her. And the people want him to be a Republican, and he basically like sells his soul, and he's like wearing these like red suits, and
Yeah,
Like,
he turns Republican for the show just because they want him to. He has no morals.
yeah.
They give him throw a lot of money at him and like some perks, and he's like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Even though he's the furthest thing from conservative
Yeah.
it could be. So that's kind of what's going on with him. And Portia.
Oh yeah, Portia has this great stuff.
Yeah, she has been offered a role in her own life story. What's actually Dory's like story of what happens with the murder. They're making like kind of this cheap TV show, like a Lifetime type thing.
Right.
And she offers to play herself, or asks if she can play herself, and they decide to do some stunt casting and cast Portia in Dory's role.
Yeah.
That's just funny. Just seeing her in the getup is funny.
Yeah.
And like her scenes, her scenes are actually kind of like terrible because the director's so mean to her, and she doesn't really have a grasp. I don't think she's ever really understood Dory, and so for her to try to play Dory, it just isn't working.
Yeah.
But there's some good like cameo casting there because they cast Busy Phillips as the person who gets to play Portia, and she's very funny too in her brief scenes.
Yeah. Everyone they cast as the other people is just so funny.
Yeah. Just those choices are great.
Yeah. Maybe that movie they're making is like a Dirty John version of Dory.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah. Oh, I could go for that.
Lower quality. Even.
Yeah. So you said Busy Phillips is in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this show has a lot of guest stars too, right?
Yeah, it always has. This season so far, we've had Busy Phillips and Ann Dowd.
Oh yeah.
Ann Dowd plays a nosy neighbor who gets caught up in the scheme. She sees Dory. Chip has no choice then except to make her a prisoner. Also, he like knocks her off the ladder. It's
Well, it's funny too because he's dressed up like his aunt. He has a wig on. Yeah, he's got shades, and he's in drag, and he's pretending to be his aunt, and she's kind of not buying it, kind of buying it.
Yeah, she just doesn't know. She knows it's weird, but she's not asking. Anyway, she gets involved. He locks her down in the basement with Dory, and this is where the show I think gets extra dark too.
Oh yeah.
There's a murder. She gets murdered, and she has a really good episode too, where she gets to make a lot of speeches and. She's not having kind of the identity crisis and feeling like a terrible person like Dory is.
Yeah.
So she doesn't react to being a prisoner at all the same way as Dory. She's more demanding. She's like, I have food allergies. I need this. I need that. We got to do something about this. We can't just sit here. And Dory's like, I don't know what to do. They're completely opposite. But Chip ends up taking her down by stuffing chicken nuggets, which are made with peanut oil in her mouth, and she has an allergic reaction and dies. But the scene they show of her dying is really dark.
Oh yeah, it's straight up out of a horror movie.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Because it cuts between like Chip and Dory like talking to each other, like yelling at each other, and she's just like crawling in the background, and it'll cut to her like crawling towards the camera, and she's choking as she's crawling. It's real dark.
Anyway, I've heard that an upcoming guest star is Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard.
Spoiler, and I can't wait. I have heard who she's going to be playing.
Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna spoil it for me. That's fine.
Okay.
Who?
Aunt Lila.
Oh!
The woman he's dressing up like.
Okay, that's perfect.
I had suspected that Aunt Lila was dead since he's in her house.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's going to be playing some sort of like flashback Aunt Lila, or if Aunt Lila's not dead at all. With this show, you really don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be Susan Sarandon, and I can't freaking wait.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Search Party fan, like, please tell us in the comments because we're actually the only people we know personally that watch this show.
Yeah, it seems like some sort of like secret. But it's like one of the best kept secrets because it's such a great show. I think it's one of the best shows I've seen in years. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. If you have comments, who's your favorite character, or what do you think is going to happen next, or what do you want to see happen with Dory? Does Dory deserve this? I think that's an interesting question. She was just acquitted for murders that she did commit, and she was turning into like this kind of savage person, and now she's been brought really low, and maybe she deserves what she's getting. Maybe it's too much. What do you think?
All right, so that's it for our discussion on episodes 1 through 5 of season 4 of Search Party.
We'll be back next week to discuss episodes 6 through 10. The final 4 episodes are dropping tomorrow, January 28th. I'm dating us there. Okay. But we're hoping to binge them in the next few days and get back to you with our thoughts about the final episodes of the season. I can't wait. So if you enjoyed this, please give us a like and subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments.